What's up, guys? Just a heads up, this is going to be kind of long for a build video, as I'm going to be covering more than just abilities and skills and the character build itself, but I'm going to be getting into equipment and some tactics, maybe even throwing a dragon fight to take the build for a test run. And so I'm going to break it down into sections and leave timestamps down below that you can skip to at your leisure, or you can kick back and watch the whole thing. That'd be great too. But either way, let me know what you think in the comment section below. All right, and I'll catch you guys later.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I wanted to share a new build with you guys that I came up with. I would call it a pure Dragon Reaver build, in that it relies almost exclusively on Dragon Rage and Devour to stay in the fight and do most of our damage, right? And with that in mind, it relies heavily on criticals, performing criticals. Not necessarily the biggest criticals, just more of them, right? The more criticals, the better, right? And so for that, we're going to need to factor in gear, okay? I mean, we can get some buffs like Varric has a passive that can buff your critical chance by like 5%, okay? And there's some things that situationally apply in the Reaver tree, all right? But to really buff our critical chance way up through the roof, okay, we're going to rely on gear. And so what I decided to do was take you guys through several steps, all right, starting with equipment and then going into the skill points. I respec my character, so I have all my points here at level 20, right? Show you what I'm working with. And we'll kind of go in stages, then we'll go fight something, you know, and show off the numbers we can put up. Now, keep this in mind, all right? Throughout this entire playthrough, up to this point with this character, I was looking for one item and essentially one item only, all right? There was some rings and amulets and stuff that come in handy, but the one thing that I wanted more than anything was the ornate battle axe schematic, and it just would not drop. I mean, I opened every chest I could think of. I went to areas where I knew there'd be chests, you know, side quests and stuff that I probably wouldn't have bothered with, trying to find it, and it wouldn't drop for me. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a tier 2 weapon, which is essentially the ornate battle axe's little brother, the jagged battle axe, all right? And based on the type of materials you use to make the weapon, it makes it more of a rogue type weapon, even though it's, you know, it's a two-handed warrior weapon. It's more suitable for a rogue than it would be for a reaver, which is ideal for us because we're relying on criticals. Critical chance, critical damage, right? And hopefully bypassing as much armor as possible, although we can't be nearly as effective as a rogue, especially an assassin, can be in that department, where they can bypass essentially 100% of the enemy's armor if the party and the character is built right. In this case, we can bypass, depending on who we have in our party, anywhere from 40 to 60% on up of the enemy's armor, depending on what we have factored into our gear. Now, this is a little bit flexible. Okay, I really have two things in mind here. One is to share the build, you know, that I came up with because I think it's cool and it's fun. High risk, high reward, you know, get out there and just go to town and forget about finesse. Just, you know, pull out the old demon claws and go to work, right? But the other thing was the principles that I wanted to share. That's kind of why I want to do this from the ground up and show you point by point where I put my skills and why, is to pass along some principles in building a character that I've learned along the way in playing other Dragon Age games and just RPGs in general. And these are kind of universal truths that apply to all RPGs, you know, or any game that requires you to manage the stats and skills and abilities and attributes of your character, all right? And so we will go piecemeal. First, I'll start here with the equipment. I'm going to go in here and craft this weapon, show you what I'm making and why. Then we'll take a look at the armor that I've already made. I don't think I have the materials to make it again, but I'll break it down how I made it, show you the schematic I used. Then we'll get into the skills, and then we'll go kill something. Sounds good to me, all right? I'll see y'all in a second. All right, so starting with the gear. Now, forgive me if the audio is just a little funky. I'm actually recording straight into the PS4 just to see how it works. Kind of curious. I don't know that I can find a way to edit the audio afterwards, but I kind of wanted to talk step by step and not miss anything here. So I was like, you know, I'm going to go ahead and try this one time. And maybe use this as a means to do build videos if the quality's good, you know. Some of you guys give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. If the audio's as good or the same as any of my other videos, then we'll run with it. It's got to be better than my old Fallout videos, right? But, all right, so let's get in here. Like I said, the Jagged Battle Axe, this is essentially the little brother, the Tier 2 version of the Ornate Battle Axe. And if you notice, in the offense slots, it calls for cloth and leather, which are rogue and, well, even mage-type materials, as opposed to warrior materials, which means we'll get things that relate to criticals, right? Rogue-type stats, as opposed to, you know, guard guard breaking and you know, barrier penetration stuff that come with warrior weapons. And of course they lean towards strength. Well, rogues should lean towards critical chance, critical damage, and dexterity, cunning, that type of stuff. Okay, so with that in mind, you know, I'm gonna hold out hope that I may actually get that schematic one day. And I don't have a whole lot of dragon bones, so I'm gonna save these. I could make a 210 base damage. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this 199 here. This is my second best material, and I'm gonna mastercraft this and hope we get lucky. All right. In fact, if we don't, I may actually restart this and just reload until I do get this, just so we can see, just get some, you know, decent stats. The good thing about this master crafting this is it's not going to just raise the base damage by 10%, but it's also going to raise all the other attributes that we put on the weapon by 10%, and that's a good thing, because we were fixing to stack critical damage on this thing, seriously. Okay, and so with dragon webbing, now I do actually have quite a few of these. And should I find the schematic that I'm looking for, I'll still have some left over to make that too. All right, but this is going to give me the biggest critical damage buff, and I really can't pass that up, okay? So I'll take that, and then we'll come over here, and we'll see what they have to offer, okay? This is calling for leather, so this is going to be another roguey type thing. We're lucky that I had the dragon webbing, because that fell under cloth, but it acts like leather, because you notice a lot of leather will also give you critical damage buffs. And I think this is the best I'm going to go for. I've got a pretty high critical chance on some other equipment. We'll see that in a minute. All right, so we'll go with this. All right, so that's 39, almost 40% critical damage bonus just off the weapon. That's before I put a haft on it or a pommel. All right, we're going to keep the same principle in mind when we put those on here too. I've already made some of those, but I'll show you what I used to make them. All right, but here we go. Now let's see if we get lucky. And we did. Nice, nice, very cool. Okay, so you notice it raised it up to 44% critical damage, and I can't ask a whole lot more than that out of a tier 2 weapon. I mean, that's pretty nice. Okay, so we'll go ahead and keep that. All right, so there's a base weapon that plays into the whole synergy of our build. All right, and then I'll come over here. Now I've already made these. I made this is my old sword here. Okay, but and notice it has a little higher base damage. And even though it has extra attack and strength, the way the damage calculator goes, if I can bypass some armor and I have a high enough critical damage bonus, then I'm actually going to put up better numbers, probably with this lower damage weapon, all right? And we'll see. But get in here, and the haft that I have, all right, notice it's another, what is that, 27% critical damage, and what I used was, we'll go back over here real quick. You can look through the different halves that you have available to make, but anything that can give you either cunning, which is critical chance. I wouldn't lean towards dexterity because that gives you extra critical damage, but that's the only thing it gives you. At least cunning will give you some range defense as well as critical chance, and pulling off more criticals is almost better than pulling off higher criticals. I'd rather hit you for 500 5 times than 1,000 twice, if that makes sense, okay? But you look down, and when the offense, look at the offensive stats down there to the bottom right, you want them to call for leather, all right? So, and here we go, and I believe this is the one I used, this wrapped one, all right? It called for 4 leather and 2 leather, and I stack those, okay, with the highest critical damage ones that I could find, which I believe is these lurker scales. You find these in the northwestern section of the Hissing Wastes, right? They're in fact, really along the whole northern area, but northwest especially. There's an oasis over there that also has some wyverns and stuff, all right? The lurker scales, notice it's 12%, and then the bottom one was another 6%. So what's that, 18%? That doesn't sound right. Let me see. Oh, this is the one I used. Sorry, round 2-handed haft. There we go. Okay. And so lurker scales in this should come out to about 27. 18, and then the next one, the other one's probably 9. Is that right? 9. Okay, there you go. Okay, so this is the one I used. Sorry about that. Anyway, I picked that specifically for that reason, is to get the highest amount that I could out of that to stack to gear this weapon towards the one particular thing that I needed it to do. Okay. So anyway, and I had the pommel with the same thing in mind. Okay, going for leather if possible. If not, if it calls for metal, then go for maybe armor penetration. Okay, so if you can't get extra critical damage, bypass their armor to allow the critical damage that you are doing to pass through. Because how the damage calculator works in a nutshell is essentially base damage, then you add in critical damage bonus, and then you subtract armor. Then you start adding things on the tail end, like attack and damage modifiers, you know, like rings, abilities, passives, and things in your skill trees and stuff like that, okay? But anyway, all right, so I did my pommel along the same lines, all right, and this is what I came up with, all right? So right now we have 44 critical damage, all right? So we put this on, it goes up to 71, all right? And then we put this on, and it goes up to 80% critical damage bonus, plus 18% armor penetration, because I believe this pommel gave me the best of those, you know, what I had available, okay? And we'll go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and throw a rune in. We're about to go kick a dragon's ass, and so why don't we just put in just a frost rune. I think I actually have a couple of those. The basic frost rune here, right? So we're not trying to max damage, I'm just trying to give you guys an idea, okay? All right, and we'll go with that, all right? So 80% critical damage bonus, 18% armor penetration, all right? And that's the weapon. Now, if I had an ornate battle axe, these numbers would be much sexier. It'd probably be 100 plus critical damage bonus, maybe some armor penetration also, okay? And who knows what's factored into the weapon itself. Maybe some extra critical chance, all right, or whatever. All right, speaking of critical chance, we're about to get into armor, all right? We'll get into that in just a second. Okay, now as far as the armor goes, I'll show you what I used, where I got it, and how I made it. Start off with, if you go to the Hissing Wastes, this is where I found the schematic, all right? It cost about 8,000 gold, and it was down here with the canyon merchant, I guess. Down here in this trench, not too far to the east of the canyon camp. You can just jump down, you'll lose most of your health when you do it, but there'll be a Mabari guarding the store. He'll make change for you, that's what the note says. But he sells this schematic, and it is the, I think it's the Sturdy Prowler armor. Hold on, let me look. Right, there we go, Sturdy Prowler armor, okay? Now, if you use Snow Floor skin, which you find here, you can make rogue gear that you can use on a warrior or a mage. Most of you probably already knew that, but for those of you that didn't, Snow Floor skin will allow you to equip rogue gear on any other character, okay? And Snow Floors are found here in the Impri du Lion. This is the starting camp when you first get there. You go through town and you just head north up to this frozen lake surrounding this little island. And there's snow floors everywhere. They look like big nugs, all right? And they drop quite a few skins each, right? It's random, but still, there's so many of them there. It shouldn't take you 2 minutes to get all that you need, all right? And anyway, you put those in there, and they're tier 3 material. They're not quite dragon scales or dragon bone, but they're good enough, in my opinion. Give me enough survivability, okay? And so you throw that in there. I think they're down here near the bottom. Okay, now it's fit for anybody. There's no restrictions on it anymore. All right, and then once again, lurker scales, which are found northwest of the Hissing Wastes. There's an oasis up there with wyverns also, right? Okay, throw those in here. This is the highest return I could find on cunning. Well, why wouldn't I go dexterity? Dexterity gives you an extra point of critical damage per point of dexterity, but that's all it does for you as a warrior, right? If you were a rogue, it would also give you attack, and that's great. But for a warrior, I'd rather hit more criticals rather than bigger criticals. In other words, I'd rather hit you for between 500 and 700 5 times than 1,000 twice, for example, okay? So I'm going for hitting criticals all the time. That also plays into the whole play style of this build also, the ability to hit criticals often, okay? But lurker scales are the best thing I've found for that. All right, and then down here, this one called for, this is more of a warrior type thing, but I was like, you know, for lack of anything else, considering I'm playing a Reaver, I'll go ahead and throw this in here. And then what I did was I mastercrafted this set. Rather than throwing any other funky stuff, I'm like, you know, I want more cunning. Don't mind the extra health, and I don't mind the extra protection, but I wanted to maximize the cunning I could get out of my armor set. And I think I wound up with 17 cunning, all right? Once I mastercrafted it with, I don't know, a dragon tooth or whatever. Okay, so go ahead and back out of that. And then on top of that, I found some arms and legs. All right, you're looking for Prowler or Hunter or Scout arms or legs that call for leather in their utility slot. Just like the weapon, just like the armor, the upgrades are the same way. Arms and legs that call for leather. And what that allows you to do is actually stack essentially more cunning than you could on the actual armor itself, almost. All right, if you look down here, where are the lurker scales? Okay, throw that in. That's 11 cunning just off the legs, all right? Each point of cunning gives you an extra % chance to hit a critical, okay? And I put that exact same principle on my arms, right? And so what I wound up coming up with, once I modified my armor, all right, was a set like this. Okay, this is my set. I call it Critical Chance, all right? And you notice I have 41 Cunning on just the armor with the legs and the arms attached, all right? Notice down there at the bottom it says Shroud, Bleeding, Prowler arms, or whatever. Bottom line is I used Lurker Scales in any utility slot that called for leather and was able to bump my Critical Chance essentially 40% just with this set of armor, okay? And then on top of that, I have this helmet, and I'm trying to remember where I got this. It was on a side quest. I don't really remember. But the Curse of Morak. But you could make something yourself. Point is kind of lost on the fact that you can make something better than this if you can find a helmet schematic that requires, once again, leather in the utility slot. That's really all you got to look for. Make something like this. But anyway, this is what it is, and 6 Cunning, 6 Dexterity, little extra critical damage, but more Critical Chance on this alone. And I don't think it's fair to look at the stats right now that I have, because I don't think my character is considered actually wearing the armor at the moment. So what I'll do is when we get out to actually go kill something and take this build for a test run, then we'll take a look at the stats then, all right? And as far as accessories go, these are kind of interchangeable. It depends on your taste. Right now I'm running with the Superb Amulet of Cunning, an extra 10% critical chance. Once again, I'm trying to stack everything I can, okay? But with my rings, I've got Ring of Attack and Ring of Critical Damage. Now, you might go for Ring of Armor Penetration. That doesn't apply to everybody. Some enemies are so lightly armored that it doesn't really matter. But it would apply to heavily armored enemies, and so it would allow you to bypass, say, up to 20% of their armor, and then you stack that with, maybe you've got someone else on your team that's sundering armor, that's breaking down enemy armor, or that has some passives or stuff that help to crack enemy armor, you know, like your warriors and stuff. Whatever the case, I would stack as much of that as you can find with your party, and maybe build that into your party's gear. You know, build that into your mage's staves, build that into Cassandra's sword, or, you know, just whatever. Cole's daggers or Sarah's bow. You know, anytime you can sunder enemy armor, break it down for a little bit, for just a couple seconds. That's great. Okay? But whatever, these are kind of interchangeable. Critical damage, I'm all for that. Critical damage is not as much of a factor if you're not pulling off very many criticals. That's why a lot of people don't value this very highly, because they're assuming that it only triggers when you pull off a critical, which is true. It does. But like with my Assassin, and what I'm trying to achieve essentially with my Reaver here, is I want to be pulling off criticals most of the time. I can't really pull them off all the time like I could with my Assassin, but most of the time. With your base critical chance, whatever that is, if you start with any, with your character, I don't know. But with everything factored into my gear, amulets, my weapon, you know, what have you, helmet, you know, all this kind of stuff, it should be up there to where it's better than a coin toss, all right? Now, the Reaver, which we'll get into when we get into skills, also has something built into his tree, which allows for extra critical chance. It's kind of situational, but it triggers a lot, all right? And so your critical chance should be up there. You know, you should be hitting criticals most of the time. So I like this. But you might go with just armor penetration and attack, or sunder armor per hit and attack, or, you know, just any combination, whatever. And I like Belt of Focus because I like pulling off focus abilities a lot. And I like my teammates pulling them off even better. The more they can pull them off, the more it helps the whole team. Like Vivian throwing up that group revive just at the right time when everybody's almost dead, or half your party's already down, and next thing you know, everybody's back on their feet, full health, full barrier, you know, going to town. And so, you know, stuff like that, I like her to do that more often than not. And so I have everyone in my party equip these kinds of belts, superior and enhanced belts of focus. Okay, so focus generation is, you know, in the 100+ range, you know, that type of thing. All right, and so that's equipment. And next, I guess we'll get into skills. And we'll show how all this equipment plays into the skill tree and how we can maximize and capitalize on all that stuff. Alright, so here we are in the Hissing Wastes, and I couldn't think of a better background to build our Dragon Reaver than, well, our new cute cuddly little friend over there, the Sandy Howler, who has cried herself to sleep. This isn't sand you see here, it's salt from her dried up tears, because she's often misunderstood and feels the need to breathe fire on everybody, and she's tired herself out and she's taking a nap. So we're gonna go wake her up in a second, but first, let's look at our skill trees, okay? I have all my points. Like I said, I respect. It was interesting getting here without any skills assigned whatsoever. But, all right, first, I'm going to share this with you. This was an idea, and I even shared this with some other guys because it sounded good on paper, was, you know, if Dragon Rage costs health, then what better to have this to get stamina back for all the health that you spend? And I'm thinking if I'm spending health with each attack, all right, then this would kind of even out my stamina meter from Ring of Pain, which drops your stamina meter like really fast, okay? I thought this could compensate for it somewhat. It didn't seem to come into effect at all. Possibly because this is a sword and shield skill, and I'm running a two-handed warrior. I don't know. Maybe you have to have a shield equipped for this to take effect. If it was in effect, I couldn't tell. It didn't seem to make any difference, all right? So I scratched that, and that's 2 points saved, but it was a good idea, so I'm passing that along. You know, along the lines of what I was thinking, you know, keeping synergy in mind. You know, one skill complementing the next, which feeds into the next skill, which feeds back into the first skill. And so it's kind of like a snake eating its own tail, you know? You should have some synergy there and everything kind of supporting one another to where, you know, you flow like water, all right, through combat. But, yeah, it didn't work that way with that anyway. All right, but starting off here, okay, like I said, there's really going to be no swordsmanship skills in this build. I'm not going to have any even assigned to action buttons, but I have to pass through a few kind of as wasted points to get to what I want, all right? This is one crucial one here. Keeping Devour in mind, we're already going to greatly reduce the cost of Devour, but this is going to reduce it even more because, look, for every critical hit that you score, all right, you reduce your cooldown of your active abilities, namely Devour, by 1 second. Well, if Devour's cooldown has already been reduced to like 10 or 8 seconds or whatever, and you can get a few critical hits in there, you can essentially use Devour almost immediately, all the time, okay? You can spam it if you've got the stamina to do it. I think that's where everyone runs into a problem with the Reaver. It's the one stumbling stone that I've found is having enough stamina to use Devour to get the health back that you've spent in kicking ass, all right? And that's been the biggest problem, right? And hopefully we found a way, you know, around that more or less, right? We can work through that. But anyway, this helps Devour cooldown to almost nothing, all right? Plus, look, it unlocks +3 strength, all right? That in and of itself is worth taking because that's adding to your attack, all right? That's your basic primary attack stat for a warrior, okay? So anytime you can add +3 to Constitution, even willpower, strength, whatever, all right, you know, go for it. I mean, absolutely. It's worth it in and of itself. But that cooldown bonus is going to come in handy, okay? And then like this too, okay? Notice I've already got it deactivated, okay? There's an X on it. These won't even be used by my character when I'm not controlling my character, which I will be 90% of the time, but still. Okay, now this. Every critical hit, which should be most of your hits, once again, remember how criticals play into everything? If you take the criticals out, this whole build falls apart. It's garbage. It's built on sand. First wind that comes along, blow it away, all right? But, you know, you put it on a solid foundation of heavy critical chance, all right? And, you know, it plays into all this, okay? So we should be able to reduce enemy armor by 20%. This is a skill I even thought giving Cassandra, maybe re-allotting 2 points towards Cassandra, because I have her with me most of the time. But I'm not sure it would come into play, because just like that sword and board skill didn't seem to apply to me, this is a two-handed skill. It may not apply to her. You may have to have a two-handed weapon equipped for this to apply. I'm really not sure. Haven't gone so far as to test that, but it's cool. Cassandra does her own thing as it is, all right? I'm fine. She stuns and staggers enough people to give us damage boosts and stuff, but would be pretty snazzy if someone could maybe number test that and see if maybe this applies towards Cassandra also. It'd be great to put in, you know, to her build so she could add to her synergy, you know, with the party. All right, but that's enough for this tree right here. Essentially, we're just looking at these two passives. You have this one down here, and it might be worth 2 points considering for every additional enemy you hit. And Dragon Rage does seem to have some of an AoE effect. I've hit multiple enemies with it. Not often, and I don't think it has a range of, say, like a two-handed sword, but it does have some range. Thing is, in a dragon battle, this does you no good because you're not hitting multiple enemies. Unless they call in all their children or whatever, all right? But for the most part, I like passives that apply all the time. Now, sure enough, it's worth the +3 strength, and if you think this would, you know, factor into your build in some way, especially if you're around level 22 or 24, okay, when you've got points that you're kind of throwing away because your build's already done, sure, go down and get this. If nothing else, the +3 strength is fine. But with the points I have now, you know, I've got those, you know, specified for specific things. So You know, in 2 or 3 more levels, I would probably actually work my way down to this. All right, but that's it for right here for that tree. And those passives really play into the whole critical thing, right? And then with this, for me, this is survivability. This is the ability to get around. So I'm not just standing there like a statue, you know, like some quarterbacks you see in the NFL just taking sacks over and over it again because you can't even move your feet type of thing. I like to be able to move around and avoid hits, all right? So I take that, and then this is bonus damage here, all right? But you also have this over here, which does help in your stamina regen, but bottom line is look at that +3 strength again, all right? Anything that helps you regenerate stamina more quickly at any time is great, all right? But that +3 is a positive too. So we're going to go ahead and take all that, all right? We're going to go ahead and take this too, okay? Damage bonus for enemies that are stunned or knocked down. Cassandra's really good at knocking down and stunning opponents with her everything from shield bash to payback strike. It seems like even challenge and taunt sometimes knock an enemy back on their heels. And if you can go in there and give them a good old dragon swipe, 30% damage bonus is nothing to laugh at, right? So go ahead and take that. Maybe at some future levels, even upgrading this to remove status effects when you do evade, right? Something to consider, right? But this is, once again, a deactive skill. I won't even be using it. If you want to factor that in to maybe your secondary hot buttons or something, yeah, okay, cool. But I don't use it. This is, like I say, primarily Dragon Rage and Devour. That's what I'm concentrating on. Okay? Now with this, challenge is good for getting your stamina back up when it's low, really, really fast, okay? It regenerates really quick when it's almost empty. Problem is, it does cost some stamina to use, so here's where getting familiar with the build. I mean, just going in and expecting to press a button, you know, press to win and it's over. Like I can just, you know, point my guy in one direction and hold down the trigger and I'm done type thing. Well, it's great when it goes like that sometimes, but overall, I think there's some getting a feel for the flow of your combat, certain buttons, and kind of getting that sixth sense of when to press it and when to lay off, you know? I'm relatively new to this build. I came up with it, and it's good, it works, but even now, I'm still not completely familiar with the buttons, okay? All right, so working this in there, this is definitely worth the upgrade, but even more importantly down here are cutting words here, all right? If Cassandra's taunting all your enemies all the time, and you're even doing your share of taunting, should you decide to spend this right here, then this is going to really come into play. So we may come back to this for a second, all right, in a second, and this is definitely worth considering, and I'm probably going to pick that, all right? But thinking to actually challenge, sometimes I'm not thinking about it. I'm thinking Ring of Pain, Dragon Rage, Devour, oh crap, deactivate Ring of Pain, oh crap, I'm out of stamina, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Usually, on the tail end of that is, oh, challenge. You know, a lot of times I'm not thinking about it. Whereas with my Berserker build, it's Warcry and challenge all the time, mainly to make sure that everybody's taunted, although Cassandra does a really good job of that, okay? We can look at Cassandra's tree in a minute, and as well as some of the mages. I'll show you my favorite party that I have with me. All right, but getting into the Reaver tree itself, we're going to want this and the upgrade. This shortens the cooldown time and lowers the stamina cost for Devour, okay? So that's definitely worth it, because stamina cost for Devour is really going to play into your combat more than anything else. It's going to get in your way more than anything else, because Ring of Pain eats up some stamina. It gives a solid damage boost, right? It like I say, shortens your cooldown, shortens the cost of some abilities that you use while you're in it, but it eats stamina so fast that finding a way to manage that and compensate for that is really where the challenge is with this build. All these passives are sexy. The more health you're missing, the more damage you do, and the better you fight. Okay, you get a 30% damage bonus for killing an enemy, essentially. If there's 2 enemies on the field and you kill one of them, you're going to get a 30% damage bonus towards that next enemy for 5 seconds. Essentially is how it works. When you're in a mob and you're just killing enemies over and over again, this damage bonus just basically goes into effect until the battle's over, right? So this speaks for itself, and once again, it unlocks cutting, so that raises your critical chance by 3. Okay, and then with this right here, once again, it raises your critical chance by 10% when an enemy near you is almost dying. So if you have to 2-hit an enemy, you get an enemy almost dead with the first hit. By the time the second hit goes into effect, you've already got a 50% speed bonus, right? And you've got a 10% critical hit chance on everything, okay? And once again, it adds +3 to your Constitution. I mean, hey, cool, win-win, right? +3 to your strength right there. With this, now Rampage is kind of a lose-lose. One, they've nerfed it in 2 different ways. You do not get the attack speed bonus with Dragon Rage when you use them at the same time. But when you do use them at the same time, you do get health steal with Dragon Rage, but you don't get health steal when you use it by itself, and that was a real bummer for my Berserker build. Although it didn't come too much into play because it was still nice to use because it was extra attack speed and damage, right? Even without the health steal. The health steal does come into effect when you use it with Dragon Rage, so it's worth taking as far as that goes, but it's another button to press, and it's something to factor into a combo, and it's not as easy to use it as it is in multiplayer, because in multiplayer it's just an active ability, and here it's your focus ability, so it's only available as often as you have focus available for it, you know. And so I'm going to leave that out for now and concentrate just on these. But the lifesteal with Rampage and the extra bonus damage on top of what you already get does come into play. It's worth using if you can work it in. I'm not going to personally work it in here because I have my points, you know, distributed elsewhere. But all right, so we're going to go down here. All right, we're going to upgrade Consume. Now check this out. Critical hit chance on your next use of Dragon Rage, 25%. On top of all the other cunning and critical chance that we've stacked in all of our gear and the rest of our build, then you have this. And you should be using Consume as often as possible, right? And then, of course, Dragon Rage itself. And then when you upgrade that, you hit harder and you reduce the cooldown time even farther for Devour, okay? So Devour it starts at 12 seconds. I believe this drops it to 8, okay? And then I believe this drops it to 6. All right, so now Devour is already at 6 seconds. Now we're gonna go back here and we're gonna look how this comes into play, okay? Flow of battle. Now you're cooling that 6 seconds down a second per each critical, and almost every hit should be a critical. You get it? So there's synergy there, all right? You're kind of flowing with yourself there, all right? You're providing the ability to use Devour more often. What it comes really down to, bottom line, is stamina. How do you keep your stamina manageable? Well, this dragon right here is gonna drop the superb amulet, superb stamina amulet, or amulet of stamina, whatever. All right, and that's gonna raise my stamina to 150, makes it more manageable. But once you get down into the 10s and 20s and your stamina's empty, it's gonna take that much longer to regen. That's where getting in the habit of possibly using challenge with its upgrade comes into play. You see what I'm saying? So there is that. Now I have a choice here. I can earn even more focus based on all my combos, right? And so on and so forth. Or I can go into my actual focus ability here. So which focus do I tend to use? I like using the Mark of the Inquisitor because it tends to come in real handy. It almost acts like a pull of the abyss, and it does steady damage over time to any enemy that's caught in it. And of course, the higher rank, the more damage it's going to do for the longer period, you know. And it draws enemies in together, so I can get in there with my Dragon Rage and just finish them off and put up some really just ridiculous numbers, you know, and just wipe out mobs. All right. Rampage might be more fun going in there, but since they reduce the attack speed bonus that you get from it, it's not as fun. It doesn't make you go in there like a hamster on crack and coffee, just swiping with your demon paws at everything, you know. You can do that anyway, all right? So it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference, but it does give you some life steal back. So, you know, it's kind of, you know, comparing apples to oranges type of deal. But I think I'm going to go with this, and then probably, like I say, if I got to level 22 through 24, you know, towards, you know, end-to-end game type thing, I'd probably pick that, and then I'd probably go over here as well, and probably drop down and grab this, all right? You never know when it'll come into play. It might get you just that extra little bit of stamina you need at the right time. Never know. But I'm gonna hope to pick up the stamina amulet, all right? But before we actually get into this fight and give this a test run, I want to go look at character stats and see if they truly reflect all of our equipment, our attributes, and all that. Okay, my cunning's at 83 now. All right, attack's at 30% now. Not real high, but we're making up for that with armor penetration and critical damage bonus. Now, notice it says my critical chance is 41%. Well, I'm getting that off essentially just my armor, but then you factor in other things like, one is I could have, if I had the engraved, the ornate battle axe schematic, I could have put critical chance in there and still gotten those sexy critical damage numbers also on top of that, right? There could have been some of that. So with this, you know, my critical chance is a little bit lower, but there is the factor of, you know, the Devour buff coming into play there, and also other, you know, passives and stuff active. And then, you know, other people in your party may also boost your critical chance, like Barrick, for example. All right, and stuff like that. But like I say, you can factor more stuff into your gear, all right, and so on and so forth. I think this should be even higher based on the Amulet of Cunning, unless they've nerfed something. Maybe they're only giving you half or 0.6 of a point of critical chance per point of Cunning now. It used to be a solid 1%. I'm assuming it still is, but that doesn't seem to be in play here, considering all my equipment. The Amulet of Cunning coming into play, unless somehow that's not an effect. But as it is, I think I'm pulling off decent criticals. So we'll go down here and pick a fight with this guy in a second and give this a trial run. All right, so just give me a minute. All right, having assigned all my abilities to my action buttons, let's go ahead and wake Mama up here and see if we can't show her what's for. Now, there's something to consider, is you can use basic attacks to rebuild your stamina. Notice my stamina coming back up in chunks. Don't know if criticals play a bigger part of that or whatever, but it can keep you in the fight. Can also allow you to be able to roll when you need to, right? But your Devour is there. Devour is definitely available for you, and for every critical, your Devour is cooling down. So you can essentially live off Devour and or basic attacks, right? Get into your Dragon Rage. Sometimes rolling right after Devour, though, is kind of hard, because Devour will take up most of your health. Now, that's where I say a stamina amulet could really come into play a lot. Ring of Pain for a little bit, get a bonus just on your basic attacks anyway, right? Get your stamina back up full. Dragon Rage, Devour, right? And just find your pattern, find what you're comfortable with. Of course, you're going to get the best benefits out of Dragon Rage when Ring of Pain is active. And this is a tier 2 weapon now, keep in mind. I think we could be getting tastier numbers. A little bit better, higher tier equipment and what have you. But that's cool. Just good for example's sake, I think. Oh, I forgot I don't have block. I'm still used to playing my Berserker. I tried to block there. That's funny. And just having roll and Devour at your disposal is almost invaluable. Yep, the ability to roll. And you tend to do some good spike damage that tends to like to stun and knock enemies out of their, or dragons out of their animation too. I noticed that. Wow. And it's gonna make me waste all my stamina. Wow. Okay. Well, time for potion. Oh well. That was a cheap move. Yeah, having roll is definitely it's a must-have for me. For those of you that don't feel they need combat roll, that's great. Do I have any offense? I don't have any offense potions. Damn it. And this is where this comes into play. See, all stamina gone, and so maybe a challenge. See, I don't think about challenge. I should get more comfortable, and if I play this character longer and more often, I'll probably do a little better with that. Yeah, see how quickly it went up? I think those are decent numbers for a tier 2 weapon, though, in my opinion. I may be wrong. Sure, they could be higher, better, but they're consistent. So, I mean, your primary weapon is there for a good stamina regen, real quick, right? And put out some decent damage, because you're already putting out criticals. You're putting out steady criticals regardless of what you're hitting with. But, I think that was decent damage output for a tier 2 weapon. Really do. Like I say, you bring in a ornate battle axe where you can throw in
that last burst of flame nearly roasted us.
A much higher critical hit chance, even on top of what we already have. And like I say, I don't know that the stats even necessarily reflect that, but even taking off that Amulet of Cunning, why don't we go ahead and switch it out and see how the stats work? Because I think this will work in better. Like I say, you can throw in some basic attacks, right, with your normal weapon. All right, we're not relying on weapon skills. It's specifically to regenerate stamina. In fact, I would almost so much as just forsake challenge altogether, and rely on Cassandra to keep enemies taunted for our damage bonus, and lean on basic attacks to regen stamina in chunks. All right, and then you can throw in a few Dragon Rage, get in your Devour, and keep Ring of Pain on most of the time. All right. So essentially, your stamina regen is coming off just your sword, and then you spend your health and then get it back, using that stamina pool. So anyway, let's go ahead and switch these out, and I kind of want to see how it alters the core stats. If I'm taking a whole bunch off my critical chance, or if this Amulet of Cunning isn't factoring in whatsoever. I'm kind of interested to see. But this definitely looks like it's going to come into play. Come in real handy. All right, notice we got from the Sandy Howler. That's the dragon that drops it. It's a set drop. All right, and so we'll get in here. Look at attributes and look at critical hit chance. I'm kind of curious. Critical chance 36. Okay, so it's 0.5% critical chance for every point you put into Cunning. Interesting. So, well, we didn't really have much choice on the armor. But putting in some points of critical, if you can find something that gives you, like, say, 15 or 20 critical chance on an add-on on your gear, that's the equivalent of, like, 30 or 40 Cunning. Okay? It won't give you the range defense, which is a nice added bonus, especially for a warrior, because usually archers are our nemesis. But there you have it. Okay? So we just removed 10 Cunning, and we lost 5 in critical chance. All right? So, wow. Any Cunning you can get and any critical chance you can stack on top of that would be great. And like I say, I would probably have factored that into one slot on an ornate battle axe if I had that. 2 would go towards critical damage, and 1 would go specifically towards critical chance. Whichever material gave me the best returns on that. If 1 gave me 2 points per piece of material rather than 1.5, I would lean towards that, and then go with, whatever you get your best returns. But that, that's for you to min-max there in your own crafting. But there you have it. This is my build. This is my pure Dragon Reaver build. This is how I roll with it. And, like I say, there's a few things you can do a little differently here and there. Maybe could have sold that dragon, but I thought we'd bring the team play into it. See how we get along like that. And there you have it. All right, so that is a pure Dragon Reaver, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I'm sorry if the audio was a little funky. Like I said, I'm trying something new, recording straight into the PS4 and seeing how that works, and get it up to you guys, and let me know what you think, and give me some feedback. All right, until then, y'all take care, and appreciate you watching. Have fun with Dragon Age, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, and as an afterthought, I do think I mentioned it. I wanted to cover my party build real quick. If you guys got a minute, if you're still here. All right. With Cassandra, I'm just going to run through their skill trees and show you what I've allotted, what I've favorited. You'll see the star up there on top of the symbol in the top middle right above Warcry. You see Warcry. You'll see a star there. All right, star next to challenge. Those are what I have them favorite, and essentially, and their focus ability to use it whenever it's available. All right, and then with all their offensive skills, I let them use them on their own. You know, shield wall. That provides guard for me also, and that's great. And she tends to use it not so often, even though it's favorited. She doesn't use it so often, but it's there, and it throws a little guard my way when it's convenient. But at level 20, this is what my other characters look like, and this is pretty much my favorite party. I'll switch out one of the mages for a rogue, like Sarah or Varric. You know, very seldom bring Cole along, simply because he's melee based, and I prefer ranged rogues, you know, to stay out of the way, where they're nice and squishy all by themselves and they won't get stepped on. All right, and then my mages, it's pretty much copy and paste with my mages. You know, I fill these out. I deactivate these two. I don't let them use them. If I need to spell, I use it on my own. I'll manually trigger it. You know, maybe at a Fade Rift or something. But other than that, all right. And then this is favorited. Revive's favorited because they won't use it unless somebody's actually down. Nothing in that tree. I deactivate this because all it does is sends enemies fleeing away from you in terror faster than you can swing at them. It actually does them a favor, so I deactivate that, but these two passives are absolutely crucial in the build. These are good to get early on, actually. I kind of got hip to this later, and I'm like, you know, I'd put this in their early build, actually. Free cooldowns, right? Free spells, and cooldown reduction for each spell you cast. That's crazy amazing, right? And then this is essentially their one offensive spell that I allowed them to use. Other than the few enemies that are resistant or immune to it, it gives us a lot of cross-class, a lot of shatter effects, you know, playing as a warrior. And even if you're playing as a rogue, you know, like Twin Fangs and Deathblow, you know, those are, or, you know, backstabs and stuff. Those, actually a flank attack I don't think triggers it, but I know Twin Fangs does. And that's like a staple of my diet playing an assassin, and that triggers the shatter effect also. So this comes into play a lot, and if it's not freezing them solid, it's slowing them down, and I think that's great. Vivian, I deactivate this completely. I don't want her in there in melee range. I want her off at a distance, supporting the party. But all this is favorited, and her passives are just amazing. I deactivate this too, because she doesn't know when to use it. The AI doesn't, and I don't like controlling my characters. You'll notice I play a no pause style. I don't like controlling essentially anybody. They need to do their job. All right, and so Vivian and Solus here. I like Solus' weakening ability. This doesn't appear to have friendly fire, so I've been letting him play with this. I'm not going to go for the explosion, though, because I'm almost positive that's going to scatter the party. Then I just have to respec him. But that's fine. He does fine without it. This plays into my party really well. Weakening enemies and then all these things that capitalize on it. And then the rest of his skill tree is almost identical to the rest of my mages, right? Got that, the cooldowns. And you got this for freezing enemies and more cooldowns, mana regen and stuff for all of us, right? When you factor in this down here, mana regeneration helps for everybody, right? And that's pretty much it. And as far as behaviors go, with my main character, as you've seen in any of my other build videos, if you've watched any of them, I have my main character follow the controlled character, meaning whoever I may switch to, right? But then everybody else follows my named character. So even if I switch to Cassandra, that means that Vivian and Solus will still be following my named character because my named character is following Cassandra's lead, assuming I'm controlling her. And then everyone else will still follow my main character's lead. So essentially, wherever my main character points and says, go hit that, everybody goes and hits that. And as long as you're there hitting that, then the mages are there putting a barrier on you so, you know, they don't kill you. And that's essentially how it works. And it seems to work really well. And it doesn't make me go into tactical menu. It allows me to just go, you know, go fight, play, explore, discover, have fun with it. All right, so that's party build also. Thought I'd throw that in there. All right, now I'm gone. All right, sorry to take up all your ear space, and I'll go ahead and get out of here. But until later, y'all take care.